one of the inventions of Romanticism period is railroads. So, railroads are the expansion of railroads connecting cities, facilitating trade and travel. We also have steel production, the Visigour process in 1856, which improved steel manufacturing, boosting construction and industry. So these social challenges and inventions not only shaped the Romantic era but also influenced art, literature, and culture, with Romanticism often portraying a longing for nature, emotion, and individual freedom in response to industrial and social upheavals.
Romanticism and the ideologies during that time was a more like a romantic movement or romantic era. It was also an artistic and intellectual movement that originated in the southern part of Europe towards the end of the 18th century. The purpose of this movement was to advocate for the importance of the word subjectivity, imagination, and appreciation of nature in our society and also in the field of culture. In response to this was the next to the Age of Enlightenment and Industrial Revolution, which is Romanticists rejected the social conventions of the time in favor of a moral outlook known as individualism. They argued also that passion and institution were crucial to understanding to the world, and that beauty is more than merely an affair of form, but rather something that evokes a strong emotional response.
Romanticism, a cultural and artistic movement of the late 18th and early 19th century, emerged as a reaction against the Enlightenment's emphasis on reason and the Industrial Revolution's mechanization. It celebrated individualism's emotion and nature. Here are its key ideologies and practices. Number one is emotion and imagination. Romanticism prioritized emotions, institutions, and imaginations over logic and reason. Artists and writers sought to explore the depths of human emotions, including passion, melancholy, and ecstasy. And also the nationalism. Romanticism often fueled nationalist sentiment by celebrating local traditions, myths, and cultural identities.
Good day, everyone. Romantic period was a time in the late 18th and 19th centuries when art, music, and literature focused on emotions and nature. Writers and artists valued imagination, creativity, and personal feelings over logic and rules.
Samuel Taylor Coleridge believed that the imagination was the most important quality in poetry. His poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, is considered to be an example of the Gothic side of English Romanticism.
So, Romanticism, a cultural and intellectual movement that emerged in the late 18th century and reached its height in the early 19th century, was marked by a focus on emotions. So, individualism, natures, and the sublime. So, it represented the reaction against the rationalism of Enlightenment and the formalism of preceding neoclassical period. So, let me give you a one example for the emphasizing the emotions and intuition. So, the ideology is romantic thinkers and artists emphasize feeling, intuition, and subjective experience over reason and logic. So, They believed that emotional depth was essential for understanding the world. And they have also the practice. The practice that is that in literature and the arts, this lead to an exploration of intense emotions such as passion, love, melancholy, and despair. So the writers that are involved that they still use the ideology or still practicing, we have like William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. For example, they celebrated spontaneous expression and authenticity of personal emotion.
The Romanticism period, spanning roughly from the late 18th century to the mid 19th century, was characterized by a shift from the rationality of the Enlightenment to an emphasis on emotion, nature, and individualism. So, I'm going to share to you four significant events during this period. The first one is the French Revolution during 1789 to 1799. So the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity inspired romantic writers and artists to emphasize freedom and power of the individual during the French Revolution. Now, next is the Napoleonic Wars during 1803 to 1815. Napoleon's rise and fall influenced romantic literature, with works exploring themes of heroism, nationalism, and the consequences of war was happened during the Napoleonic Wars. Next is the Industrial Revolution during 1760 to the 1840. The rapid industrialization brought significant societal changes, prompting romantic thinkers to critique the laws of nature and the rise of urbanization. And the last one is the abolitionist movement during the late 18th to the 19th century. So the fight to end slavery inspired romantic poets and writers who often expressed sympathy for oppressed individuals and celebrated universal human rights during this period. So again, there are four historical events that I have shared: the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, the Industrial Revolution, and the abolitionist movements.
They believed nature was powerful and beautiful. Aside from that, many romantic works also celebrated individual freedom and the struggles of ordinary people.
The Romantic period brought many social challenges as it clashed with the rapid changes of the time. Industrialization and urbanization transformed societies, leading to harsh labor conditions, environmental destruction, and a loss of individuality. Growing class inequalities created tensions between the working class and the wealthy, with the romantics sympathizing with the oppressed but often idealizing poverty without solving it. Nationalism surged, inspiring pride in local cultures but also fueling political upheavals like the revolutions of 1848. Traditional authorities, including monarchies and religious institutions, faced criticism from romantics who valued freedom and individualism, which often led to resistance. Gender roles were also questioned, with early feminist ideas emerging, but patriarchal norms remained strong. Advances in science and technology, such as Darwin's theories, challenged the romantic reverence for spirituality and intuition. Romantics celebrated individuality, yet many faced alienation for their unconventional ideas and lifestyles, clashing with societal expectations. Finally, the movement polarized cultural thought as its emphasis on emotion and imagination stood in stark contrast to Enlightenment values of reason and order.
Good evening, everyone. So, I'd like to share about Romanticism. Romanticism is actually an age that greatly influenced our ways of perceiving things nowadays, which resulted into shaping ideologies and even the cultures as a whole. Independence, autonomy, self expression, and power in all aspects of life are few of the many characteristics brought by the Romantic age, making human more remarkable and strong. Lastly, this age made people appreciative and even protective of nature. Good evening, everyone. So, I'd like to share about Romanticism. Romanticism is actually an